The opening scene features a 19-year-old boy named Eric Love. He has been recently transferred from a juvenile prison to a high-security adult prison due to his violent behavior. It is the same prison where his father Neville is serving a life sentence. As per the prison rules, Eric firstly undergoes a series of strict security checks for which he is made to undress. He is then provided with his prison clothing before finally being escorted by a guard. Since this is the first time Eric is placed in an adult prison, the young man seems frustrated and depressed. As soon as the guard leaves, he assembles some of his belongings into a makeshift weapon and hides it in his cell's lightbox. He then starts arranging his cell and carries out some exercises. A while later, all the prisoners are called for lunch. Upon stepping out, Eric notices his opposite door neighbor smoking a cigarette. He attempts to borrow the lighter, but the man doesn't oblige, stating that he has no spare. Eric then takes his plate to the cafeteria for breakfast, where he gets into an argument with Jago, a prisoner who is currently distributing the food to the inmates. However, they are soon separated by the guards, who escort Eric back to the prison. Afterwards, he goes out to the yard where he keeps an eye on Jago and his gang members, conducting some illegal business. A short while later, Neville walks up to him and warns him not to cause any trouble in prison and obey all the rules so that he can get out as soon as possible. However, Eric doesn't pay much attention to his father's words and simply heads back to his cell, indicating their strained relationship, as well as his stupidity. Neville also returns to his cell, where he stares at a sketch of a nuclear family with the inscription, "I love you, Daddy." That's PFFD, that's unhinged. Later on, the same neighboring prisoner, named MacDonald, walks into Eric's cell and tries to strike up a conversation, mistaking him as a bully. Eric suddenly attacks him and beats him unconscious. Soon after, he realizes that the man is going to die, so he carries him off to alert the guards. Seeing the violence, the prison guards order Eric to stand still, but the latter runs back to his cell, believing that he is about to be punished. He pours baby oil on his body and breaks the table legs to use it as a weapon to defend himself from the guards' beating. Shortly after, the deputy governor, Hayes, orders his guards to break into the cell to apprehend Eric. However, the boy beats up the guards and holds one of them hostage. He claims that what happened to MacDonald was an accident and asks if the guards believe him. When they confirm, Eric turns himself in. The guards then put him in cuffs and take him to another cell. On the way, the young man starts fighting again, making it difficult for the guards to handle him. Just then, a volunteer prison therapist named Oliver intervenes and rescues Eric from the guards. He then sends him to solitary confinement. After this, he has a meeting with the governor, deputy governor, and other prison authorities, in which he tries to convince them to allow Eric to attend counseling. After a while of discussion, the governor proposes sending him to a special kind of therapy with Oliver if he complies with the regime. However, he'll be permanently expelled from the counseling class if there arises any other violent incident. On the other hand, Neville, who is concerned for his son, seeks help from Dennis, a crime boss that runs the prison. The latter agrees, but he says that the boy will have to stay away from trouble. That night, Neville sneaks into his son's cell to have a private conversation. He tells him to behave, or else the prison guards will execute him and make it appear as a self-kill. Eric then brings up the past, when he used to hear his parents bicker. However, Neville shuts him up and leaves. "Say the word bicker again, I'll kill you." The following day, as Eric is brought back to his wing, he notices Jago leaving his room. He also sees his neighbor back in his cell with a bandage around his head. This gives him a cunning idea. He sneaks into Jago's room, scatters his belongings, and steals his lighter. He then gives the lighter to MacDonald, and heads inside his cell. A few moments later, the furious Jago starts yelling at the inmates, demanding to know who entered his room. Meanwhile, Eric is enjoying the scene from his cell. In the next scene, Neville takes his son to Oliver's counseling group, despite being informed that it is a non-smoking environment. The young man lights up, prompting his dad to scold him. Before the session begins, he gets into another argument with the prison guards, who then escort him back to his cell. Realizing that Eric is still very young, and his emotions are still very unstable, Oliver asks his counseling group members to look out for him. Later that day, Jago bribes 3 inmates in order to assault Eric. As a result, they break into his room and start attacking him. One of the counseling group members, named Hassan, notices this and rushes to his aid. When Eric is about to fight back against the men, Hassan immediately stops him, emphasizing that retaliating will only worsen the situation for him. The young man seems to be convinced by his words. He calms down and lets the assailants go. The next day, Oliver visits Eric in his cell and summons him for the counseling session. Changing the subject matter, Eric asks what he's doing in the prison, to which Oliver responds that he considers it to be his home when he shares about being sent to a boarding school as a child. Eric also claims to have been sent to a care home at the age of 10, and there he killed a man who tried to bully him. After a brief chit-chat, they head for the counseling session, where a group of men with violent pasts try to confront their histories. The atmosphere soon becomes tense, with members engaging in a heated argument. However, Oliver manages to de-escalate the situation and helps them understand. As the days pass by, Eric begins to attend the session regularly with a more calm demeanor than before. He observes the session format and also starts bonding with the other group members. However, Neville is annoyed by his son fraternizing with black inmates. As a result, he confronts the boy, asserting that he only asked him to attend Oliver's counseling sessions to learn how to control his emotions, not to be close friends with the black inmates. In response, Eric says that he doesn't want his father meddling in every aspect of his life. One day, Eric heads to the gym, where he joins Hassan and the other counseling group members to exercise. Shortly after, Neville walks in and keeps an eye on them. When Eric notices his father staring, he wants to quit, but a group member named Tyrone makes him stay and continue the workout. Later on, while Eric is taking a shower, he is suddenly assaulted by an inmate sent by Jago. The man tries to strangle him, but our boy manages to fight him back. He also forces him to reveal the name of the person who bribed him. Upon hearing Jago's name, an enraged Eric retrieves his makeshift weapon and heads to his cell. He launches a deadly assault on the man and extracts information about the prison's hierarchy. He learns that the ultimate authority lies with Dennis, not with the warden. The angry young man then storms towards Dennis' cell and tries to attack him, but he is stopped by his father. Eric then complains about Jago sending his men after him. Hearing this, Dennis summons Jago and issues a stern warning not to bother Eric any longer. He then sends Neville out to have a private conversation with the boy. Seeing the great potential in Eric, he advises him to stop engaging in silly fights and work for him. However, the boy doesn't seem to be interested in this offer. More days pass, and Eric appears to be changing for the better. On every counseling session, Oliver provides the group with a topic, which helps Eric to open up. He seems to be more comfortable chatting in the group. Unlike before, they also practice anger management exercises, in which the group members deliberately try to make Eric angry and watch as he struggles to keep his calm. Little daddy's boy, little bitch. Yeah, put some more baby oil on your ass, stupid. But when he gets it right, they all celebrate, ultimately bringing a smile to his face. One day, Neville, who has been observing Eric's progress, suddenly walks in the middle of the counseling session. He then picks up a fight with his son for no apparent reason. However, Eric is in no mood to get into any sort of fight with him, which prompts Neville to storm off. But when Hassan cracks a joke about the incident, he gets offended and starts crying. Cursing his family, Tyrone immediately intervenes and warns against bringing up family matters. Despite this, Hassan does, which ensues a heated argument between the two. Eric eventually realizes his mistake and apologizes, but it's too late, as the commotion is already noticed by the governor. He expels Eric from the counseling group, citing a breach of agreement. Oliver tries to convince the official to rethink her decision, but to no avail. In the aftermath, Eric is very angry and disappointed at his father for causing all of this. As a result, he goes to confront him and starts beating him up. Neville doesn't fight back. He simply lets his son beat him until he gets satisfied. In the midst of this, Dennis tries to intervene, but he is tossed off the rail by a feral dog. Just when it seems someone is going to get killed, the guards intervene and escort the father and son back to their respective cells. After some time, Neville calls out to Eric, scared that they have done something to him. When the boy mentions that the guards haven't harmed him, Neville senses something amiss, as Dennis would not have remained silent. That night, he cons one of the guards into freeing him and immediately knocks the man out. He then goes to Dennis' cell to apologize for his son's behavior. The crime boss lies, saying that he is going to protect Neville and his son at all costs because he considers them to be family. However, the reality seems to be something else, as the prison guards, led by Haynes, break into Eric's cell and start beating him up. They try to hang him and make it appear as a self-defense. As the two continue talking, Dennis suddenly attacks Neville with an intention to kill. However, the latter overpowers him and ends up killing him instead. He then rushes to Eric's cell, only to discover him being hanged. Infuriated, Neville fights off the guards and has Haynes cut off the rope, freeing his son at the last moment. The two then have an emotional reunion as Eric finally realizes how much his father loves him. The next day, he wakes up in the infirmary after receiving treatment. He is then summoned by his counseling group members from the window, who support and encourage him to stay strong. A while later, Eric is approached by a prison guard who escorts him out in order to see his father one last time. It turns out that Neville is being transferred to another prison as a consequence for his impulsive actions to save his son. Before departing, the father and son hug each other and Neville expresses his pride in being him. Eric's father,